Welcome to another episode of the Movie Fellas. Today is actually the final episode of our Leprechaun retrospective. We're ranking all things Leprechaun, the actors, the characters. I assume that Leprechaun was probably in your second tier of horror series also.
It was. I mean...
There's not enough strong entries for me to put it up there with like the Nightmare on Elm Street. But I also understand that it's not supposed to be up there with that. It's more horror comedy. It's hard to find other horror comedy series, so it's like in its own kind of...
What are you talking about? You got Evil Dead.
Well, the first Evil Dead was very serious, but the
It was supposed to be, but...
Oh, yeah, that's true. The comedy was unintentional in the first one. I do think that the Leprechaun series is one that I will continue to revisit. Maybe not each of them. I'll pick out my favorites, of course. But it was very interesting. This was the first time I've watched them all back-to-back in that way. So, anyways.
Let's get into our rankings. Let's just start off with the easy one and just do movies. The movies themselves. So, number 7. There's a total of 7 movies, so I'm going to start at the lowest rank of number 5 for me. Characters were bland, pointless. The second act was slog, boring. The only person that actually made that movie any kind of watchable, believe it or not, wasn't even Warwick Davis, because I feel like he shouldn't have been in this movie. I feel like this should not have been a Leprechaun movie. Should have just been a hood drama with Ice-T as the main villain.
I was going to say, instead of part 5, we have to call it Leprechaun the Hood. I feel like that's the official title, is Leprechaun the Hood.
Everyone knows it as part 5. Except for
nobody
the
calls
weebs.
it. Nobody calls it Leprechaun 5.
Everyone calls it Leprechaun 5 because honestly, part Leprechaun in the Hood is too many syllables for a lot of people.
Wow. Okay. Wherever I went to school for math, that's where you went to school for language, apparently. So.
Hey, for one, it's English in high school, and 2, I was in AP English.
Oh man. What happened?
College courses, bud.
What happened?
Easy.
Where'd you go off the rails? 10th grade?
No, I focused more on creative writing and went to sleep in English. Anyway, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is Leprechaun the Hood.
Oh, look at that. We are the same.
You know, the only frame of reference I have is the Nightmare series, but in that one we start off pretty much on the same page, but as the list goes on, then we start to kind of go in different directions. But I agree with you completely. Leprechaun the Hood is the worst movie in the series. It's not the worst made movie. The problem is that it doesn't fit the Leprechaun series at all. You're right. It felt like a serious drama that has the Leprechaun doing his own storyline in the movie, and it's way too serious. The tone's way too serious. Not a fun movie. And there's a better version of Leprechaun the Hood in the series. So, yeah, I went ahead and ranked this last myself.
So, number 6, Leprechaun 2. So, with Leprechaun 2, for me, it's... The Leprechaun was fine. This one, actually, I believe that this was written as a Leprechaun movie. My issue with it is the main characters mainly. The people we were following were the worst ones. The girl was really just a damsel in distress. There was no reason for her half the damn time. The only reason she was there was for the plot. Damn, the main guy, I didn't care for him one bit throughout the entire movie, even at the ending.
You didn't like Cody?
No. I didn't even remember his name. I'm surprised you did.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole thing going on. The movie was boring, to say the least. Leprechaun didn't really have that many funny lines. The only fun bit was the bar scene and the waiter scene. And I can watch those in 5 minutes on YouTube.
Yeah, true. Okay. For me, my number 6 is also Leprechaun 2. Now, the thing is, though, what's funny is this is a popular movie in the series. And coming into the rankings, I thought that I liked part 2 a lot.
Did I?
And then watching it with the critical eye, I was like, hey, what the shit is this? What the hell is this movie? This movie literally has, as you said, has 2 or 3 enjoyable scenes. But I do hate the main characters. Cody's not fun at all. Yeah, the whole ending just goes off the rails when you go into Leprechaun's little cave thing. I will say this. I did like the uncle character, Morty. He's diabolical, but in a fun way. And his scenes are all fun. But once he exits the movie, it's all downhill after that. Leprechaun in a go-kart's fun too, but it's not horrible, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Number 5. Leprechaun Returns for me. I mean, with this one, it's just I didn't like the characters, especially Katie, believe it or not. I didn't like the characters. I liked the Leprechaun fine, but in a different movie. I didn't like the fact that they took it back to its roots and did a soft reboot just because Halloween 2018 did it. That's the only reason this movie exists in the way it does. Otherwise, I guarantee we would have gotten our own movie. Fuck you, Halloween 2018. You ruined a perfectly good movie that could have actually amounted to something, but it didn't.
All right. Well, my number 5 is Leprechaun Returns. I think after this one, the rest of the movies on our list will probably be in a different direction. But
we'll see.
we reviewed this last week, so my thoughts are out there pretty much. But yeah, I can't handle a different actor playing Leprechaun. And I can maybe do it if you tell me it's a different story, but if you tell me it's the same Leprechaun from part 1, then I can't do it.
So number 4, you'll never guess which one I chose. For my number 4 spot, number 4th pick.
You're picking part 4?
Yes. Okay. I'm going to space with number 4. I mean, it was fun. It was funny. I enjoyed almost every aspect of it. However, I can't get behind bad CGI. The climax slogged and was actually the most boring part for me in that movie. And also, the death scenes were very tame. I understand you don't have that big of a budget, but that's why you shouldn't have used CGI in the first damn place. Use Legos for all I care. It would have looked better than what we got.
True. That's it.
But I will say, like I said, the movie was just fun in general. The acting was bad, but I feel like that was on purpose, minus Miguel A. Nunez. I mean, yes. Miguel was most likely the best paid actor. He had to have been. Everyone else was purposely over the top or under the bottom. Either way, I feel like it was intentional. It was fun. It's just a few things I couldn't get past.
Yeah, we're at the part of the list now where I think, okay, everything from here on out I recommend you watch. These are all, to me, like kind of in the same level. It's just about ranking which ones I find more fun. That said, my number 4 is also Leprechaun Space. Now, the thing about Leprechaun Space is that this is the most over-the-top Leprechaun movie. Mm-hmm. And this is like just straight, they're throwing everything against the wall possible. Half of it doesn't work, but the half that does work is very entertaining. You can't go wrong with Leprechaun shooting a machine gun, missing everything, having no aim, of course.
Being a stormtrooper.
Yeah. Him wanting to become a king and have them all... and
worship him.
Yeah, and Harold getting the bedpan smashed across his face and that terrible CGI afterwards. Or practical effects, whatever that was.
I'm about to say, that was Harold's face was practical.
Yeah. Okay, well, what about large, giganto Godzilla Leprechaun, huh?
Some was practical, some was really bad CGI.
Leprechaun.
But
at the same time, man, this is the Leprechaun spirit. This is just fun comedy horror. And definitely emphasizing the comedy over the horror.
So number 3. I'm going back to the hood for number 3. Because with this one, Leprechaun is definitely back from, especially better from the previous movie. He's a little bit more insidious this time around than he was in the previous movie. However, this time they actually try to take away the jokes from the horror. When he's being serious, he's horrific. When he's not being serious, he's funny. They give him some pretty good lines in this movie. They actually give him a few decent fights. Some went a little too overboard. Some, he got a good chicken leg out of it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's definitely a fun movie. Acting was bad. It definitely felt like a soap opera in the beginning. But once the Leprechaun comes in, the movie picked up the pace, and it got better for me. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I definitely recommend it. It's the last time Warwick Davis played the Leprechaun to this date.
All right, this is where we get a big surprise. This is where we finally diverge.
You're choosing number 1, aren't you?
Number one, that's right. That my number 3 is the original Leprechaun. I don't find the original Leprechaun to be that good. I do like it a lot. And I can see why people like it, especially it's the original Leprechaun. So it already has a sort of a built-in, hey, respect because it's the original. But under the critical eye, I did find it's a movie to be lacking in terms of the likability of the characters. I felt like Leprechaun himself, they were on the borderline of like, okay, we don't know if we want to go full-blown comedy with them or not. Although mostly, I would say they did lean mostly comedy. I don't really like the setting of like the small house in the woods setting that they use, whatever it is, but still a good movie to watch. It's the original, so you have to give it respect, but I just don't find it as fun as some of the other ones.
So my number 2, and I'm sure Vic's not going to put this as his number 2. It's going to be Leprechaun 3 for me. It's fun. It's energetic. It's definitely probably the best iteration of a Leprechaun to date in these series. However, the acting with our main character, Scott, wasn't that great. He did the best he could, but the man isn't even an actor. He's a producer.
Very successful one.
Yeah.
Very successful one, too.
Either way, he's not even really an actor. Some of the kills does leave something to be desired because there's definitely a few deaths that should not be deaths. It's more, and this one definitely does divulge more, definitely into more comedy. However, they still find that good line between comedy and horror. But personally, for me, when I watch a horror movie, unless I'm in the mood for it, I'm probably not going to go with the horror comedy versions of these characters.
Fair.
So I'm picking this as my number 2. It's definitely fun, and it was a hard choice between this one and my number 1, but my number 1 won out for me.
My number 2, of course,
Back to the Hood.
Leprechaun Back to the Hood. Now, this is a hard choice because Back to the Hood I actually liked a lot more than I remembered, but it's really because of the Leprechaun himself. He's just like at the top of his comedic chops in Back of the Hood. And they put him in very funny situations. Fun death scenes. I admit the acting is not amazing for the rest of the actors. But story-wise, the movie makes sense. You do like the characters enough to actually root for them. And as you mentioned in that podcast, the characters do fight back. You get a lot of little fight scenes between the characters and Lep. And the original, or the last appearance for Warwick Davis as well. So I just thought it was such a drastic improvement going back of the Hood versus the original Hood movie that I got to give it a lot of respect. So,
and my number 1, I'm not giving anyone a drum roll. I'm sorry, but for my number 1, it is. Well, I'm assuming everyone already knows the only number I haven't chosen is the very original Leprechaun. As anyone who's watched our Nightmare ranking would know, I prefer more of a serious horror, which for Leprechaun, you're not getting that. But with the original, you get close to it. He does have his little quips here and there, but it is definitely done in a more dark humor than it is comedical. These are definitely probably some of the better acting in the entire series, and that's saying something.
well, yeah.
And also and unlike Leprechaun Returns, you actually get more of a setting. You get the town that goes with it. Even though you don't see a whole lot of the town, you still know there's a town that goes with it. So you know that these characters, to be fair, are only trapped in this situation because that's where they live. Not because they have nowhere else to go.
Fair.
So it could just be seen as, get out of my house, you little shit. But, you know, what's supposed to be your safest place of comfort? Your home. So when a leprechaun comes in and just starts trashing the place in a break-in style movie, you know, it kind of twists your mind a little bit.
Yeah, true.
So overall, I'm giving it to this one, giving my number 1 to the first one. If I'm going to choose just one Leprechaun movie to watch, I am putting this one on over any of the others.
Fair point. I think, yeah, once you get to the top 2, 3, 4, just really is personal preference. I understand the love for the first one. Of course, for me, the last one left is part 3. I just think part 3 is the most entertaining Leprechaun movie. It definitely doesn't have the hardcore horror elements, but the highs of the comedy are just like amazing. We'll get to some of our favorite deaths in a moment, but yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about. I think Leprechaun 3 is the best formula for a Leprechaun movie in terms of take the Leprechaun, put him in a fun situation, a fun location, fun scenario, and let him go to work. The first one, of course, is more just like, yeah, it's more of a horror movie location, but the formula for the series became put Leprechaun like at a location, put him in Vegas, in space, in the hood, or have him return back to where he was in the first one. So I think in terms of him being a destination killer, him going to Vegas was by far the best fit for Leprechaun.
All right. So next, how about we go ahead and rank the Leprechauns themselves? I'll let you take the first one since I took the first one last time.
The first one is going to be Leprechaun from Leprechaun in the Hood. I just feel like this is a weird Leprechaun. Like, he doesn't really use magic that much. He doesn't really... He rhymes, but not really. When he's rapping, he's rhyming, but he doesn't really give any memorable one-liners. His go-to death is literally just... flicking like the person's intestines out and stuff. And maybe it's just the movie itself bringing it down, but I thought it was just like a rare low energy performance from Warwick Davis.
Okay, well, for me, it's Leprechaun 5. Because personally, this movie was not written to be a Leprechaun movie. There's no way this was. It felt like the Leprechaun was the tail end of deciding what to do with this movie. I feel like it was originally a hood drama, didn't have enough pages to make a full movie in the script, so they just added a Leprechaun to it. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel cohesive, and the Leprechaun himself just felt so out of place that they pretty much turned him into a sex object for this damn movie.
You're right.
And that should not be our Leprechaun. Few sex jokes here and there is one story, but literally making it where he was about to have relations with our main character because he thought it was a woman just rubbed me the wrong way. It wasn't that great.
I'm going to go with our new friend from Leprechaun Returns. And the reason is because if you're going to establish Warwick Davis as Leprechaun, and that's what we're used to, it's just a tough pill to swallow to see a new person come and take the role. But I can accept it, except you cannot have the most high-pitched voice in the world. And you cannot change the entire character into a random killing machine. In this movie, he's the Terminator. He's not the Leprechaun that we've come to know, come to love. So, yes. So,
this is where we already differ. I'm choosing Leprechaun 2 for this one. Because, again, whereas the Leprechaun is fun in the times he's in, it's also still trying to be a very serious movie for a movie that should not be serious. Our Leprechaun friend is very not comedical. I don't remember laughing that much throughout this movie, except for when he gets drunk. He's not supposed to be serious in especially these sequels. And this movie was definitely not helpful. I'm surprised they got a third one after this one.
Yeah. All right, number 5.
Yep.
Oh, you're gonna like this. The Leprechaun from the original Leprechaun.
Damn.
I mean, to be fair to Warwick Davis, like, he didn't really know what the Leprechaun was yet. So it's kind of like there's kind of a weird mix in part 1 also of like sometimes serious, sometimes goofy. I think they were still trying to fit in the mold of a horror movie, so he wasn't going fully over the top yet. So I just feel like with each movie he got better with the character. So I have to, with that logic, I have to say the first one is him still roughing out the edges of what Leprechaun's going to be. So,
well, number 5 for me is Lepian, our Leprechaun alien from part 4.
oh my God.
Because the thing is, with the lore established, this Leprechaun should have been probably the most powerful of all the Leprechauns, but yet he did the most mundane things.
He used a machine gun.
He used the machine gun. When he used his magic, he literally used it just to handcuff somebody and then shot fireballs that missed. Yeah, I understand he was trying to use that as a tactic, but half the time I'm sitting there like, I don't think that's a tactic. I think you're just a really bad shot considering you can't shoot worth shit.
He wasn't very competent. That's true.
No, he wasn't. And that's what annoyed me about him. So even though fun movie, for the most powerful Leprechaun that we've had, he should have done a lot more.
Okay, so now for me, I will now go with Leprechaun 2, Leprechaun. And as you said when you were talking about him, the Leprechaun 2 Leprechaun is starting to get into the groove, I would say, of like peak Warwick Davis Leprechaun. Certain scenes are peak Leprechaun, I would say. The cafe scene is peak Leprechaun. And the getting drunk scene is peak Leprechaun. So for those two scenes, I could not rank him too low. And by the way, this is unlike other lists. All of these are good performances. So I can't really diss any of these performances.
No, so was Robert Englund with Freddy.
Yeah, so it's like ranking like this is like us at the good restaurant, and we're picking between all of our favorite foods basically. So this is not like I can list them in a way, but they're all good to me. So, but I'll say part 2 because it's not quite yet peak Leprechaun, but it's getting there for me.
So for me, number 4 is, and I bet you've been waiting to hear this from me, Leprechaun Returns Leprechaun.
Oh!
Because, I personally like the performance. I just wish he would have gotten his own role. That's my only complaint about this one.
Yeah. It's the same, like I said, it's the exact same logic from the Jack L. Hurley, Freddy Krueger
Jack Earl Haley
applied here.
Yeah.
You can't really diss him playing the character. You just wish he was given a chance to do his own thing and not have to live with that comparison that inevitably he's going to get to Robert Englund. So.
Right.
Okay, well, that's fair. Okay.
Number 3.
Number 3 for me now is a Leprechaun in Space Lep. If he is a leprechaun. It's not well established in the movie.
They never say leprechaun in the movie. They just call him an alien.
Yeah, if it wasn't so goofy, I would think maybe this is a different script that Leprechaun was plugged into. But the movie's so goofy that it can probably only be a Leprechaun movie. That said, this Leprechaun is vastly different. He has ambitions to be king. He's sacrificing his life for the princess. It's kind of a
because he
Leprechaun.
can't die.
True. But he's still the Lep we know in certain circumstances. You got Harold's death scene. You got him becoming giant leprechaun. It's fun stuff. So, not quite peak Leprechaun, but up there for me. So,
Leprechaun. So the third one for me is going to be the Lep Demon from Leprechaun 6. I mean, again, this one definitely melds comedy and horror pretty nicely for me. I enjoyed him playing this role, and the fact that they give him fight scenes for one was kind of surprising to me. I mean, 3'6" man fighting 6 foot tall Watson was entertaining. Even I saw it in Jason Takes Manhattan, but who doesn't love a fun little rope-a-dope?
Yeah, it was a nice throwback. All right, so number 2. Well, it's got to be Leprechaun going back of the hood. Just to piggyback on what you said, so many fun moments here with Leprechaun. I almost don't want to go into them because we're about to go into our favorite death scenes, which so much of that for me is going to be discussing Leprechaun back of the hood stuff. So I'll just say he's very fun here. This is Warwick Davis so comfortable with the role at this point that he can probably do the role in his sleep at this point. So good stuff.
So number 2 for me is actually Leprechaun 1. Again, I personally prefer a more horror style acting, in which case that's really what you get with this one, and it fits unlike it did for part 2.
What about when he's on the pogo stick?
That's just funny. I'm sorry, that is fun to watch, and then he has that little rhyme, this old lad, he played. I'm like, damn, that's just because it adds more dark humor because he's killing someone in the process of doing it.
Just kudos to the director for making it a slow motion shot of him coming him towards him with a pogo stick. It's the funniest thing ever. Seriously.
Right. So it's definitely one of my favorite Leps. I know he's just getting into the role, but I felt like he nailed that role perfectly for that particular movie.
Yeah.
If he was like that in any other movie, as I stated in part 2, would have sucked.
I think we both have the same number 1 then, so we might as well just discuss it in unison then.
Well, my number 1 is part 3. What's yours?
Part 3.
Yeah, because this one for me, he definitely gets down packed the horror and comedy elements so much that it is just amazing watching him in this movie.
Yeah, every scene he's in is entertaining, and I think the main thing is that I think the Leprechaun's character with Las Vegas is such a good fit. There's so many fun things you could do with him at the casino, playing games, at the magic show. There's gold everywhere, and
I kind of wish he would have went into that girls club that he passed.
Yeah,
through.
I mean, you could have made a whole movie of him just walking the streets and like taking in the sights and sounds and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, this just feels like it was his third time playing Leprechaun, so he wasn't yet like tired of the role, but at the same time he had enough experience with it to where his energy level was like super high. So it's kind of like something about the third movie, because I feel like Freddy in Nightmare 3 is a lot of people's favorite Freddy.
Yeah.
Because he kind of have that
he has
just that peak balance where it doesn't feel like it's you're not sick of it yet, but he's cut out, like all the rough edges are gone now basically. He rhymes so much in part 3 too. Everything's a rhyme.
Right.
So you get like all these funny rhymes. Everything with him and Gupta at the beginning is hilarious. So yeah, this just goes on. This is in line with me feeling like it's my favorite movie in the series. So,
well, how about we start ranking our favorite heroes? And I say heroes plural because every movie has two heroes in a sense. A boy and a girl for most, minus one. You ready for this? Because
yep.
I had a hard time for this one.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Number 7 for me is our young couple from part 2.
Oh, hey, mine too.
You know, are they a couple? Because she very quickly leaves him at the beginning of the movie
for another guy
to go out with go-kart employee guy,
and then leaves him because she's technically still with the other guy.
And by the way, she's fair to leave him because he's a scumbag. He's leading this tour where he's scamming people out of money. Right. So you have two unlikable characters. You kind of want Leprechaun to win this movie. You want him to kill both of them, and you want them to die.
Well, that's the bad thing. He didn't even want to kill the girl. He wanted to marry her. And I'm like, no, that means we have to deal with her. I don't want to deal with her. You don't want to deal with her.
The only sympathetic character in this movie was the guy at the very beginning who was trying to get his freedom, but he sneezed too many damn times, or she sneezed too many times.
He saved his daughter from being married to him.
God bless you, my daughter. Yep. And Lep's like, you mofo, that's the one thing you could have said to mess up the whole spell. So, all right. Well, that was both of ours. Okay.
Number 6, the heroes from Leprechaun Returns for me.
Agreed.
Okay, so again, this is the only one we don't get male-female narrative. We just get two females as friends. I'm fine with that if the characters were likable. Again, Katie did a lot of things to make me think she was more of a backstabbing liar than an actual friend. She took pictures of her supposed friend naked. She kept teasing this one guy and then starting arguments with him, I guess just to have makeup sex. If you're into that, have fun, but damn, I don't want to have to fight you every damn time.
Yeah.
And then for Lila, she just had to hang up on her mom, and it was annoying.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like an old man yelling at the clouds, but the main characters in this one, they were two 2018-ish for me.
Because that's when this movie came out.
Just talking about a bunch of random stuff that I don't care about. Just problems that I can't relate to.
Well, then it's going to suck if you try to watch the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
Oh, great. I'm looking for that, right?
I'm not.
Yeah,
I just watched a little explained video, and I don't plan on watching the movie.
Oh, no. Well, yeah, but I agree with everything you said, basically. I just didn't really click with the characters here. I was okay with them dying if that was the case, but it didn't happen, so.
Well, what's your number 5, bud?
Okay, so number 5, I'm actually going to go with the two main characters from Leprechaun in Space.
Hey, me too.
Now, it's mainly the girl that I don't like. The guy, I think, I'm kind of neutral on him because he didn't really have much of a character.
No, that's
he's just there to be like tough army guy, and he's trying to get with the girl. The girl, just her acting, yeah.
Yeah, so for me, when it comes to these two, the reason they're my number 5 is, as you brought up, The guy is not a character. He's just there to be tough. He's there to take his shirt off during the climax. He's there to sit there and he's just there. The girl, she was annoying. She talked down to everybody. This would be the type of woman that I probably would have jettisoned out of this damn space station and let her fly off into space.
Yep.
So with that being said, number 4 for me is the group in Leprechaun 5, back to Leprechaun in the Hood. If you say that's the same one as you.
Nope.
Oh, it's not. So we actually can diverge away from each other. So yeah, Leprechaun in the Hood. The characters, they're positive. They're trying to get out of the hood, but they're doing that by breaking the law, going after a guy that wronged them, which with the circumstances can be seen as legitimate because they're also going after a villain, not like robbing Post's grandma. That would have been a dick move.
That would have been bad, yes.
But at the same time, all these characters for this movie was just dry. Again, with a Leprechaun movie, we want fun, we want exciting, we want comedy. We don't want full series, and that's what these 3 gave us. They're good actors, but not for this movie.
I'm gonna go with Back to the Hood's main characters, which both of them actually are relatively well-known actors now. But yeah, the Back to the Hood actors, the main characters, I gotta say, I didn't care for them either. I like the third guy.
Butch.
No, what was his name?
Oh, Jamie. You're talking.
Jamie, yeah. I like Jamie. And I like some of the side characters, but they didn't do anything for me. I feel like they grew on me as the movie went, so I don't hate them or anything like that, but yeah, they didn't really do anything for me. I didn't care about their romance or their relationship, so.
So my number 3, you've already talked about, is Leprechaun, is the 2 from part 6. Personally, if Rory would have died and Jamie would have been the main character, I would have been happy with that. But we didn't get that. We get some soap opera love story throughout this movie with these 2 characters that it's supposed to be characteristic, but with the way these 2 were acting, I didn't believe it for a second. The only thing I believed was Warwick Davis is able to kick their asses. And that's saying something because he didn't use magic throughout this entire movie. So with that, Leprechaun 6 main characters for me is number 3.
And my number 3 is the characters from Leprechaun in the Hood, which I have respect for them because and the thing, I guess, maybe this is the problem. I'm actually including Ice-T in the group.
Oh, damn.
So maybe because I feel like he's kind of the main character also.
I mean, he's
just on the other side.
He's really the main villain.
Yeah, so I guess it depends how you look at it. Most of these movies don't have like a villain like that who's like a main thing, but even just him aside, the other actors are good actors. It feels like they're just in the wrong movie. They give good dramatic performances, and Postmaster P is pretty good. The one that gets killed, I feel like you feel something when he dies because you're like, wow, he's one of the main friends in the group. So I feel like they're just in the wrong movie. But their acting was good, and I like their characters, so I'm going with them over.
All right, number 2 for me is the 2 from Leprechaun 3. It's kind of surprising I don't have them as number 1, but to be honest, when I remember Scott's acting of Scott, Tammy was fine. I like Tammy, but Scott,
you better like Tammy.
But you just like her because you have a crush on her. But with Scott, he definitely chose a better choice in which producing. Let's just say that.
All right, my number 2 is the group from Leprechaun 1. That's right, Jennifer Aniston. And the reason I choose them is because I like the little kid, but I didn't like the guy. And Jennifer Aniston's character is in no way sympathetic or likable in this movie. You can't convince me that she in any way is sympathetic or likable. Ozzy was a lot better in this movie than he was in Leprechaun Returns, for obvious reasons.
One, you got to know him better.
And he doesn't become a freaking ghost.
Yeah. He almost did.
But I mean, the characters here are just. I guess they're fun because it's a group of like 4 of them. But you might as well pick up from that with the groups. So.
Yep, because my number 1 is Leprechaun 1. I actually like these characters. It probably could be because of Jennifer Aniston. She's a beautiful woman. And I could be blinded by beauty.
She ain't no Tammy.
Well, I'm not a big fan of blondes, and she wasn't a blonde in this movie. I mean, a dirty blonde, I guess, but she was more towards the brunette side than blonde.
Fair.
But when it comes to the other character, so Jennifer Aniston aside, I mean, she, surprisingly, this being her first major role, she actually didn't do that bad of a job for me.
She hates it.
She doesn't hate it anymore. She now admits,
supposedly, allegedly,
it's probably fan backlash is why she's admitting this now, but she
there's a lot of
admits that
Leprechaun
because
fans.
of this movie,
She gets a lot of hate mail from Jeremy in Idaho saying, "Hey, how can you not like the Leprechaun series?"
for one, is Jeremy in Wisconsin.
There's also Jeremy in Idaho also though.
Yeah, that's fair. But either way, also the guy character, he was probably the only one I actually didn't care for, and that's because what did he do this movie except for flirt with Jennifer Aniston?
He has no character.
Exactly. The kid had more of a character. He had a goal. He had a goal that he wanted to use this gold for. He wanted to help his friend. When it comes to Ozzy, what you get with Ozzy is he has a childlike mind, so all he wants to do is good. So you have that likability for this character and kind of the sympatheticness for this character because of his situation. And, it doesn't help that the leprechaun almost eviscerates him, but that's besides the point. I'm sure he still has them scars.
Yeah. Well,
he has more scars now.
He does. It's my number 1, of course.
You're just doing it for Tammy.
Leprechaun 3. No, actually, I was going to say, as bad as Scott's acting is, he's still one of the more likable heroes, though. He has a...
he turns into a freaking leprechaun.
Yeah, that's cool. He has an innocence...
He's Leprescott.
He has an innocence about just him driving through. He gets caught up in this whole thing. He gets bitten by the leprechaun, turns to a leprechaun.
Because it's a leppy vamp.
Yeah, he does more by turning leprechaun. He does more as the main character than all the other heroes do. None of the rest of them actually have to turn the leprechaun and fight the leprechaun at the end. That's all.
What are you talking about? Ozzy had to fight the leprechaun at the end. Getting eviscerated. Jennifer Aniston. No way, it was the guy that shoots the leprechaun a couple of times. I thought Jennifer Aniston used the gun too.
No,
she actually hits him with the gun because the gun ran out of bullets. And then the little kid. Either way, it was Leprechaun 1. It was a group effort.
Yeah, that's the problem. It was too many people. This had 2 people versus Leprechaun, and I just like that dynamic better. I'm saying I think they're the 2 most likable characters. I honestly feel that way. And it just goes to the clean sweep of why I think Leprechaun 3 is clearly the best movie in the series, because so far, I've given them number 1 movie, number 1 Leprechaun, number 1 heroes. Now, we get on to the kills, and we'll see how the kills come out.
So either way, we're not choosing. So since we didn't do kills in our last ranking video, what we're doing is our top 5 kills throughout the whole series. We're not doing our favorite kill per movie.
Yep.
So with that being said, you want us to do the honors of starting off with number 5?
Number 5 is Loretta from Part 3. Sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for. She wanted bigger boobs.
And Leprechaun gave a really good rhyme for that scene.
Something about exploding her ass. Her ass exploding or something?
No, I don't remember the whole line,
No,
but
it
when
was
it comes to
something
her
about-
ass, he's like, bring her ass out to here.
No, but it ends with something like, when I blow up your ass. I don't know. We'll have to go back and...
Either way.
He said something.
I love that
You are mighty
rhyme.
fine lass.
Either way, I love that line, rhyme.
I was surprised by how good the special effects of it looked. Like...
Because it was practical.
Yeah, it looked like, for like a low budget, that looked like that was a fun special effect for it. Practical effect, I should say. So yeah, Loretta got what she deserved there, so...
For my number 5 is actually the pawn shop owner in the very first movie with the pogo stick kill. Again, it's dark humor. Some people may not find it funny, but Leprechaun slowly bounce into him, and this little lad's nursery rhyme happening. It was just amazing for this kill.
All right, number 4 for me is the cops from Back of the Hood. The reason being because the Leprechaun shows superhuman strength by clutching a man's leg and ripping it completely off the body.
After
With
throwing
one swing, rips his leg off, and then you have the perfect line before that of, "What'd you say about me, mother?" Just hilarious.
So my number 4, and even though I ranted with this movie, I apparently am giving it a little bit more love than I showed in that review. It's actually going to be Meredith's death from Leprechaun Returns.
Oh,
just
nice.
because that is the only death, even though it still kind of gives us clues to her death. Hers is the only death that is actually not picked up right away unless you pay attention to this character and movie. So with this, and also with his death, it's just the Leprechaun is keeping his word. And Meredith was a good actress, and the kill was just bloody fun, even though it logically makes no fucking sense. So that's my number 4 is Meredith's death in Leprechaun Returns.
That's a good one. That one might actually be an honorable mention for me. Didn't make the list. Didn't make my list, but I think that'd be an honorable mention for sure. That's definitely my favorite kill from that movie. All right, so number 3 for me, the Great Fazio. My man, the magician who could have been a great magician, but got too full of himself, and unfortunately would not give up the gold coin. So Lep had to cut him in half in his own magic trick. The reason I like this death so much too is because it's actually really gory for an otherwise not gory movie. Like I didn't expect him to show the body, so just the most fun death scene, one of the most fun ones. The Great Fazio.
So my number 3, and this is actually going to be more of a cop-out, because I'm choosing both the cops from Part 6.
There you go.
Back to the Hood. I'm choosing both Thompson and Whitaker.
That's what I meant to do. I know I talked about the leg being ripped off.
Yeah.
But really, I meant to say that both cops.
Yeah, so it's a cop-out for me. I'm putting this as one death, even though it was 2, because it happened in the exact same scene. Yeah, you get the Leprechaun bringing up, "What'd you say about my mother?" And then you get him stabbing him, and then gets his ass kicked before ripping off his leg. It's funny. It's fun. It shows that the Leprechaun means business, even though for the main characters, he apparently resorts to regular strength. But either way, it is definitely a fun death to enjoy during Back to the Hood.
All right, down to number 2. You mentioned earlier, this is, for me, the pogo stick death from Part 1. Just so funny. Like I said, I mean, I've already talked about it, but him on the pogo stick in slow motion and the epicness of him singing the nursery rhyme as he stomps into the guy's insides. And I think afterwards he said something about, "You'll be back on your feet in no time." and just for Part 1, I think that was a standout death for sure from Part 1.
So my number 2, I'm giving it to Loretta's death in Part 3.
Okay.
I mean, it is, like I said, it's funny, it's enjoyable, especially with this character. Yeah, it definitely goes with what I had an issue with the returns, but it was a little bit more. It goes all the way because of the characters and the way they're trying to make this movie. It's not as serious, so I can get away with it. But this one is fun. She blows up like a balloon. She pops. She's screaming. She has big lips.
My number 1, I had to think long and hard about this. It's kind of a cop-out for me, too, because it's mostly because of the whole scene leading up to the death. And this is the cafe death from Part 2. And the reason is because, not necessarily the death itself. The death itself is good, but the whole lead up to it, the interaction, the guy making jokes about Leprechaun's height, wanting to leave the store. But then when Lep starts to burn his face and just like getting so much joy out of it, he's like, "Oh, too hot!" And the guy's face like melts. It's just, and as a coffee person myself, the idea of death by coffee, death by steamed coffee or steam, it just really does a lot. This really tickles my fancy.
So my number 1, and this is probably because I do classify myself as a gore hound. I like gore. So I'm giving it to Fazio from Part 3. Because, again, Fazio is probably the most hated character in that whole movie. He's annoying. He was in a sense, evil. He was practically
I like Fazio.
he was practically our part 3 human antagonist. Because, face it, Mitch died pretty quickly, and he really wasn't that much of an antagonist.
Okay.
This guy was much more despicable than Mitch.
You're being very disrespectful to the great Fazio, right?
Well, that's
great
another
magician.
thing.
Great magician.
That's another thing. He calls himself great. Only people that call themselves great are evil. Either way.
The Great Gatsby.
But I do love the fact that the Leprechaun 1 did this in front of everybody, sawed him in half, pulled him apart. If I remember correctly, I think one of his guts is actually on both sides, just hanging out of the damn saw box.
Yep.
It was fun. It was gory. It was definitely the best kill in that movie. You definitely tell most likely a decent amount of money went to this death scene to make it work.
Yep.
And with that,
I think that concludes our rankings.
it concludes our rankings. Oh, yeah, we got to rank the Mountain Dew flavors.
No.
Damn it.
The Leprechaun box set is actually very cheap on Amazon and pretty much everywhere.
Yeah,
So,
the box set comes with 1 through the very disgustingly known as Origins.
yeah, it is missing returns, but I looked it up. Returns is also like $5.
It
on
was.
Amazon,
I
so-
bought. I when I got them, there was a 3-pack. I was able to do a deal. I don't know. I doubt that deal's on now, but it was the Leprechaun box set, Leprechaun Returns, and the Chucky movies.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I do have the Chucky movies, even though I hate the Chucky movies.
Well, that's definitely a series we're doing that. We don't know when we're going to do the next series per se, but that'll probably be the next series we do, whenever that is.
Might as well, because I got it, and I don't want it to go to waste before I burn it.
Well, I think you'll like the Chucky movies under close examination. There's a reason why they're so beloved. Anyways, folks, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Movie Fellas, and also leave us feedback there if you can. Also on Twitter at Vic Azim, and I don't think Nick Arcana does social media at all in that way. So
Not true. I have an Instagram,
yeah, but it's
but I don't. I only get on it to look at models.
and plus you use your government name, so.
No, I use Nick Arcana on that one.
Oh. Hit up either me on Twitter or him on Instagram, but mostly YouTube for both of us.
Yes, YouTube for both of us. Most likely at the same time.
Movie Fellas on YouTube. Leave us comments. And next week we'll be doing a whole new movie, and you'll have to wait to see what that is. So.
Yep. Have fun. Have a good night. Get your chicken nuggets. Get your popcorn. Enjoy our podcast. Oh, wait, you're going to be driving. It's not safe to eat and drive at the same time.
Yes, wait till you get home, then finish your nuggets. And on the way home, if you see some leprechaun's gold in the middle of the road, do not stop and pick up the leprechaun's gold. Just drive right by, otherwise you're in for a world of hurt, as we've seen through all these leprechaun movies.
And if it's a leprechaun from Leprechaun Returns, well, you might as well kiss your ass goodbye.
Yep, you're done for.
Yep. Have a good night and enjoy yourselves.